Hey, welcome to Delaware Live Sports and week 9 of the Pigskin picks this week. We have John Busby from the Delaware Football Podcast. John, how are things going?
Great, great. Hard to believe it's week 8 already.
Week
Week
9.
9, week 8's over.
Yeah,
Hard to believe that it's over, and we're heading into week 9 already. It seems like just the other week we were talking about preseason games and what was going to be happening with then. So
exactly.
exciting
Pretty
time
soon
of
we're
year.
talking postseason. So
Yeah.
let's go and get the ball rolling. We're going to start with who would have thought this game would have any meaning with the records 2-6 versus 2-6, St. George's and Smyrna Friday night at Smyrna. Trey, who do you got in this game?
It's been one of those seasons for both Smyrna and St. George's, like you said. Who would have thought both teams 2-6 with coming into this game? But it's still meaningful football. I think Smyrna's a good 2-6 team. I like Smyrna here.
Don, still a
Well,
playoff chance for the Eagles.
Yeah, still a playoff chance. They're the only team left that has 2 wins that still has a shot to make the playoffs, and that's what makes this game interesting. Smyrna might be in, they might be out. This game might matter. They might still be in even if they lose. St. George coming off perhaps one of the worst losses in school history, losing to CR, with CR picking up their first win. And I looked closer at St. George's record, guys, and their 2 wins are against non-playoff teams. So, I'm going Eagles here all the way. I think Mike Judy's going to have his team ready to play. He's got 2 solid quarterbacks who would play at 75% of the other schools around the state, still rotating them in and out. He's got this wide receiver, Phoenix. I can't think of his last name, but I tell you, when I saw him play live earlier in the season, he reminded me of Chris Godwin. Now, I'm not ready to put him at the professional level yet, but when he caught that ball, if you weren't within 2 steps of him, you weren't getting him. And so they've got the talent. Struggling with the earthquake on the extra points, they convert less than 50% of those. So, and that has cost them. If you look at some of their scores, it's been within a couple, 2-point conversions, and maybe they win those games. But I think Mike Judy's going to have his guys ready to play. This is a playoff game for the Smyrna Eagles.
Right. Their offense has not been as plentiful as it has been in the past.
No.
Should Smyrna went out, they make the tournament, and there's going to be complainers, but that's what a strong schedule does for you. Being able to make a tournament in 4-6 and being possibly trouble for people coming in at 4-6. I'm taking Smyrna Eagles too, and heading into their big game with Sussex Central next week. Let's move to a double Class 2A game. Milford and Delmar. Milford 6-2, Delmar 5-3. 7:00 kickoff in Delmar. Trey, who do you got in this one?
Yeah, it's another big Class 2A game this week. There's no easy games in this district, and we got 2 really good running attacks from both teams here. Daenerys Horsey and Charles Shorts are both close to 1,000-yard seasons from Milford. Delmar's got Khalid Schoolfield, Brandon Turner, and Isaiah Holbrook, and they can bust up a defense. I think it's going to come down to who wins the line of scrimmage. I've been back and forth on this one. I got a tough time picking against Delmar at home, so I'm going to go Delmar.
John Busby, who you got in this one?
Well, it's amazing what Jed Bell has been able to do at Milford. When you look closer at their wins, he's got 3 of the 6 wins are against teams that are not going to be in the playoffs, and the other 3 are against teams that might not be in the playoffs. So he has no wins against a legitimate playoff team yet. And that's not to take away anything that he's done. He's building that program up. And the wins are going to come as they have, but even the more quality wins will come. I can't say enough about the job that he's done. Delmar, on the other hand, they had that tragedy earlier in the year. They've gotten over that. They seem to have, well, you don't get over it. They've moved on. They seem to have moved in the right directions. Their wins aren't overly impressive either. I look at this game as a toss-up, and much like Trey, when it's a toss-up and you're playing at Delmar on a Friday night, I'm going to go with Delmar.
Watch out for Jack Hudson in this game. The Bucks passing game is really starting to come around. He had a touchdown pass last week against Sussex Tech. Milford is entering, though, as you guys said, one of the toughest places to play. The more hostile, the more they like it down in Delmar. Delmar came out in the Laurel game, marched right down the field, scored, and then kind of went flat. And part of that had to do with the Laurel defense. I'm going to take the upset here. When you got 2,000-yard backs, somebody can have an off night. I think Jack Hudson is going to throw a 20-some-yard touchdown pass to win the game. I'm going to take Milford in the upset down in the hostile environment of Delmar, the town, too big for one state. Let's move to Saturday at 11 o'clock. 2 of our biggest games are Saturday at 11. Tatnall at Wilmington Charter, 6-2 Wilmington Charter, 7-1 Tatnall. Trey, who you got?
Wilmington Charter, they're on cruise control with 5 straight shots leading up to this Tatnall game. And then, they got upset by McKean last week. How do they bounce back? The first thing they have to do is they got to stop Rashawn Lamons from Tatnall. Got 26 total touchdowns combined, throwing and running. It sounds easy, right? I mean, stop them. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Tatnall finds a way to win here.
Don Busby, upstate game for you. Who you got in this?
Well, Rashawn Lamons, very impressive, as you mentioned, Trey. I watched him on the live stream last week, and every time he touched the ball, I thought he was going to score. I'd never seen him play before, and all of a sudden, Tatnall's got my attention, and I'm watching him. They lost to Friends in week 1. They haven't had a close game since. Tatnall's been on a roll. Wilmington Charter, though, they were the team that was supposed to win this District 1. They fumbled last week against McCain, a team that's solid like they are, that was supposed to win District 1. They've got it all together. I think they're going to come back this week. I'm going to take the Wilmington Charter team.
Wow. We were headed to a big showdown. This was going to be a 7-1 versus 7-1. Going to be a lot of hype between these two teams. And then Charter, they just got bit by a big upset bug. I mean, jumped up and took a bite. Still a lot on the line, though, which makes this big. But Tatnall's just looking harder and harder to beat each week. I think the thing with Lamons now at quarterback, it gives him 10 blockers. And he's tough enough with 9 blockers. I'm going to take Tatnall on the road to get this one and capture their first district championship in Class Single A. And then the other big one, Saturday at 11, Slazan versus Hodgson. The Sows are 7-1. The Silver Eagles are 6-2. Trey, what do you got on this?
That Sally's loss to Dover back in September seems pretty insignificant now. They can wrap it up. They wrap up the district championship here and get home field advantage for the state semifinals. But you still got to play the game. Hodgson is a turnaround team of the state right now from 1-9 to a shot at the same district title. I think it's going to be a great game, but I like Sally's.
John, Hodgson is your story as Woodbridge and Milford are ours. Really turning around the program in 1 year.
Yeah, Coach Dave Collins, who was an assistant there for 20 years under Frank Moffitt, he decided he needed to change the environment there at Hodgson. And I've kind of followed them. In full disclosure, he's my neighbor, and so I'm a fan of Hodgson. And so I've seen more of their games live and in person than any. And so I've seen what goes on the sideline. I've seen what goes on the field. And I can tell you for the past few years, every time I went to a game, there were 3 personal fouls that cost that team. And there were 3 boneheaded plays, as I call them, jumping off sides on 4th and 4 on a punt when everybody in the building knows you shouldn't jump off sides type of thing. He has eliminated those mistakes, and it shows in their record at 6-2. They lost to Caravel, which Caravel, I'm telling you guys, might be in the playoffs if they were in Class 3 this year. They're big and they're good and they're solid. We'll talk about them in a minute. So, I count that as a decent loss. They lost to Middletown. The quarterback struggled in that game. If he doesn't struggle, you never know what happens. That was a lot closer than the final score indicated. Sally's might have a quarterback controversy. They've been going back and forth. And, Gene Deladon has made it very clear he's going with a hot hand, and that's what he's going to do. And so we'll see. But I don't think that quarterback controversy is going to cost him the game this week. I'll be rooting for Hodgson, for my neighbor, but I think Sally's is going to win this one.
The Sows they've been the big story this season. While the Silver Eagles, they've quietly plugged their way to put themselves in this opportunity to have a chance at a district title. District title on the line, 11 o'clock. Everything is leaning Hodgson's way. I think the most of the counties behind them. I think Sally's finds a way, wins the game. I think this is going to be a closer game than people think.
And remember, this game is at St. George's. It's not at Hodgson, and it's not at Caravel. This is one that they scheduled at St. George's. Yeah,
they're the road warriors this year, but I just feel Sally's at this point is destined to win that district championship and get that all-important home field advantage through the playoffs. I'm going to take the Sows in this one. Big Class A game. Class A has been fun to watch this year. This is the Class A District 2 game. It's going to be the 5-3 Brandywine Bulldogs and the 7-1 Polytech Panthers. Trey, Polytech is right in your neighborhood there. Who do you got in this game?
Yeah, like you said, Class A District 2, it's where they beat up on each other. Polytech has a chance to do something the Panthers never done in football, and that's win a championship of any kind. They're on the doorstep of history. The only thing staring in the way is the Brandywine Bulldogs. I I think the Panthers get it done, man. I think Polytech finds a way and wins.
John, Polytech, just like Hodgson, quietly building a resume this year.
Under the radar. Under the radar, more wins than ever in school history, looking to make the playoffs for the first time ever as a football program. You know, when you look at going to 3 classes and the schools that have benefited from it, these 2 schools have as much as anybody. Brandywine had 0 wins last year. They got 5 this year. Polytech had 3 last year. They've more than doubled that, up to 7. You know, this is a game that Brandywine is coming off that tough loss 2 weeks ago. I would have told you they're going to probably win, if not easily, at least by 10 points, but that's not the case anymore. The Panthers are going to be in the playoffs, I think, unless a lot of stuff went wrong. I think they're in the playoffs. Brandywine at 5-3, you know, they can't afford to lose this game. They do have St. Andrews, but again, St. Andrews is never a gimme. You know, none of the Class 1 games are gimme. If we've learned nothing else this year, we've learned that. And so this is not a game. They don't want to go into that St. Andrews game at 5-4, because maybe even at 6-4, they might be on the outside looking in. And so I'm going to take Brandywine on the road down at Polytech.
Class A to District 2 it has been competitive as much as it's been entertaining this year. Every time, one of the first things I do is go on Twitter to see who won those games, and I'm to the point where I'm just not surprised anymore who's beating who down there. Just one more big game. The passing attack of Brandywine got stifled last week against First State Military. I think there was 4 interceptions in the game. Can Poly do the same thing? Both teams had slim wins over Seaford and in the past 2 weeks. I think this is too big of a game for Brandywine to lose. I agree. I think Brandywine gets the win here on the road. Both teams, it'll put both teams in the state tournament. Let's go to Caravel Academy, which we've mentioned them earlier. Delaware Military at 4-4, and the Caravel Bucks 8-0. Trey, who do you got?
Yeah, DMA, they're talented, and you know they're playing for a chance to make the state tournament. But it is Caravel week. I know, you know, playing for a chance to make state tournament makes DMA dangerous, but Caravel's tough, man. They've defended that number 1 most of the year. They've outscored their opponents 273 to 132. In their last 5 games, they've held their opponents to 3.8 points per game, so less than a touchdown. I like Caravel.
John, Caravel didn't take that loss in the state finals very well. They have been unbeaten and on a tear since.
Yeah, their closest win was 21-3 against Laurel way back at the beginning of the season. This is homecoming, always a big thing at Caravel Academy. That school is about 2 miles from my house. It's a close-knit community. A lot of the teachers there went there. Kids come from every neighborhood to go there, so there's going to be a big crowd. Caravel has not lost at home since December of 2020. And that was the COVID year. And so when the scheduling was all screwed up and everything like that, before that, they had lost the year before to Woodbridge, the last game of the season. So, you know, they're tough at home. John Reed is a Caravel alum. He was on the first state championship team that they had there. 4 of their 8 wins are against playoff teams. And like I said, the only close win was against Laurel. And I've got them on the fence. I don't even count them as one of their playoff wins. And then they beat Hodson pretty solidly. And Caravel looks like a Class 3 team when you see them on the sideline, both in their numbers, and they're big in the trenches. They're deep at the skill positions. They've got 2 running backs. They've got 2 star wide receivers. They got 2 big linebackers in the middle, and just solid from top to bottom. DMA has been up and down this year, and that sounds weird. You know, they gave Sally's a good game in week 1, struggled in a couple of their games after that. They pulled some wins. Matt Carey's doing a nice job there. They're still recovering from the couple of years of turmoil that they had when they went through with their previous coach. So it's going to take Matt Carey a couple years to get people who are applying to go to that school to have faith in the athletic program and in the football program. I think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to make a difference this week. I'm taking Caravel.
Must-win game for DMA at the wrong time. Yeah, they're going to roll into we saw them play a tough game with Sussex Central, who is 1 win away from wrapping up the 3A District 2 title. Yep. We saw them beat a Delmar team in Delmar by 2 scores. So DMA is not a team to overlook. Even if you're careful, they're not a team to overlook. You will be coming this prepared. Until somebody beats them, I think Caravel sits atop of AA. I'm taking Caravel in this game. Let's move to Dover, the state capital. Cape and Lopin at 6-2 versus Dover, 7-1 with a 7 o'clock kickoff. Trey, You got
Hey, Dover, they got upset last week, and at the same time, Cape was pulling an upset. You got to look at Cape a bit different now, and especially with that win over Smyrna. Their defense showed up against the Eagles. So does Dover's first loss hinder them or inspire them? I think Dover gets right back on their offense at home. I like Dover.
Don, who you got in this Downstate Classic?
Well, Dover's obviously missing Jaquan Kilby. There's no doubt about that. John Parker's trying to pick up the slack, running the ball, receiving the ball. He's padding his stats. He's doing a great job, but you can't replace a Jaquan Kilby. You can only try to supplement them. Cape coming off their biggest win under Mike Frederick, one of their biggest wins in recent years. You guys follow Cape closer than I do, but I don't remember a bigger win than beating a Smyrna team that really needed to win at home, beating them. And so that was pretty impressive. It's you worry about having a downer week, and not that the good thing is you can't look past Dover, and they because Cape's got to win. They're not, nothing's a lock at the level that they're at. What their record is at 6-2. 6 should get them in, but jockeying for position, stuff like that. I think Dover is going to be ready to play. Chip Knapp is an incredible coach. I'm more impressed with him. You can tell why he coached at the college level, because he has his guys ready to play. Tough loss at to Sussex Central last week by that 1 point. I think he'll have his guys ready to play, and I think he'll talk to them about how important it is that they have this game. They've got Cape, and then they've got CR. So two teams they should beat. It'd be nice to be 9-1, and if not the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed. I'm going to take the Senators.
Since the loss of Kilby, the Senators' offense has been less potent, we'll say. I expect Cape's going to come in with a whole new attitude now. They've started believing in themselves, which could cause some trouble for Dover. Dover right now, Sussex Central win on Friday night, which Dover has no control over. Sussex Central wins District 2.
Yep.
So Dover is now basically playing for a 3rd seed unless Caesar Rodney can do it 2 weeks in a row. I think Chip Knapp, and I like Chip Knapp's approach. He's from the old school, but he's not old school. He understands kids. He talks to them. He doesn't yell at them. He doesn't beat on them. He'll have these kids mentally ready.
Yep.
And I think that's the difference last week. The Senators will be mentally ready. They will move to 8-1 this week with a win over Cape and Logan. And our last one, it's our downstate game of the week. 4-4 Lake Forest versus 4-4 Laurel in Laurel. Trey, who do you got?
Here we go with a Class 2A District 3 again. Both teams 4-4, and probably only one of them is going to make the dance. They're both on the bubble, and that bubble is going to burst Friday night. I've liked following both these teams the last few years. They've just been great programs, a lot of consistency in these programs. Like I picked earlier, I'm big on home field advantage. I think Laurel's a tough place to play at home. I think they're going to pack the stands and be loud. I like Laurel.
Big downstate game. 2 great coaches, well-coached teams. They find themselves in an elimination game. Who do you got?
Yeah, you never would have thought that. I had Laurel, as I talked to you before we went on the air, Benny. I had them in my top 3 in Class 2 at the beginning of the year. Lake right with them, if not in top 3, certainly at 4 or 5. Lake's been riddled with injuries. Starter quarterback went out, backup quarterback went out, and they've had some struggles there. They're coming off 2 losses. Lake is. Laurel, a very impressive win up at Delmar. I would have picked Delmar last week in that game. So you got one team riding in the right direction, one team going in the other direction from a loss standpoint. The only advantage, Lake would have is if this game was at Lake, but it's not. It's at Laurel. I'm going Laurel.
Elimination game. This is my favorite district. I mean, Class 2A, District 3. It's the old Henlopen South. And this is what they've been doing for 50 years in the Henlopen South, beating each other up. In August, I picked this game to stream because I thought it was going to be for the district championship. And now it's to see who can stay on track to make the tournament. I don't think anybody saw the turnaround of Woodbridge and Milford, which has put these 2 teams in that position, but it happened. I talked to Joey Jones after the Delmar game. He says, look, I don't care how many quarterbacks Lake Forest has lost. They've got weapons they can get the ball to. As long as they find a guy that can get that ball to the weapons, they can be a problem. If you've noticed in all their games, they've been down here lately, 2-3 touchdowns at the half. and they're losing 1-score games. So Lake Forest gets on a roll early. It could be a problem for Laurel. But I think right now with that big win over Del Mar, so they've beaten their 2 rivals in the last 3 weeks, Seaford, and then they beat Del Mar last week in a huge homecoming game. I think, like Trey says, I think the dog pound's crazy on Friday night. I think it's going to be packed, and I think Laurel gets out of there with a win. And so, John, your biggest game, if you only had one ticket, where are you going this week?
Out of the 8 that we picked here?
Yeah.
I would probably, let me take a quick look. I wouldn't go to Caravel. I think that could be sort of lopsided. Even if he wasn't my neighbor, I would probably be going to see Salesianum and Hodson, because I think it's an opportunity, even if Hodson loses to Salesianum, if the game is close and if they play hard, they're going to go into the playoffs with the confidence that they can beat any of the top 4 teams, right, if they're not one of those top 4 teams, because that's really what it's going to come down to. There's a lot of parity. These 8 teams that get in Class 3, any one of them can knock off the other one. We've kind of seen that. If you start looking at this team beat this team, so this team beat this team, and this team can beat that team, there's not a lot of teams that stick out anymore. Dover would have been it, but they lost. And they lost to Sussex Central team that lost to Appoquinimink, that lost to Hodson. So you start doing it, you start looking at it like that. I've often said the team that wins on that either Thursday or Friday night that is going to be this year might be the team that's the healthiest out of those, in Class 3A especially.
Absolutely.
So I'd be going to see Salesianum and Hodson.
Right. Trey, you always said the first thing you tell your wrestling team on the first day of practice, this is the healthiest you're ever going to be. Where are you spending your ticket this week?
That Cape Dover game interests me. Like we said, Cape shocked some people last week, and good on them. Defense stepped up and got the job done, and I think this makes for a really good football game in the state capitol. And if I wasn't getting ready for wrestling season on Monday, I'd probably pop in there and watch it.
Right. Well, I'll be at the Laurel Lake Forest game, but I would spend my ticket to go over to Milford Del Mar. Nothing better than a hostile Del Mar crowd, and I think Milford, their fans believe. I looked out of the box last week. That place was packed. It wasn't a homecoming game. It was a regular season game against Sussex Tech, and it was packed. I think Milford's going to take their fans down there. I think that's going to be probably the loudest, raucous game of the state. It's just another old Henny South knockdown, drag 'em out fight. So, John, thanks for coming on. You got Jason Winchell to beat.
I know. I'm going. I want to at least beat Marty.
Right. There you go. Yeah. It'd be Marty was 5-3.
5-3. Yeah, he beat me last year. I forget what the numbers were, but
so
he
the
beat me
battle
last
of the
year.
Delaware High School football podcast announcers.
That's right.
On the line for this week. Guys, thanks a lot. See you all at kickoff on Friday night.
Have a great week.